Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago. I did promise that this morning we're going to be having a very interesting conversation. And this morning, to have that interesting conversation on taking control of crime on the island of Tobago, I have the privilege of chatting virtually this morning with Assistant Superintendent Collis Hazel. Good morning, sir, and welcome.
Hi, good morning to you, Ms. Felix, and good morning to you, to your viewers on this platform. It's a pleasure in speaking with you.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Tobago Updates this morning. Now, we know that the TTPS has been frantically holding meetings, holding consultations, and putting together strategies to combat the escalating crime situation in Tobago. We see that you continue to be at the forefront of these discussions. Now, before we really get into this morning's discussion, we know that there were a number of suggestions that came out of that national crime fighting meeting that included both the Chief Secretary and the Prime Minister. This included the increase in patrols as well as the increase in sending officers from Trinidad to Tobago. Can you alert the public or kind of educate or inform them on some of the strategies that you guys have implemented and are implementing to help with that crime fighting situation?
Thank you very much. And let me say that, of course, if you continue to do the same thing over and over and expect you would expect the same result, and therefore change is what is required in terms of our approaches as the world continue to change. I continue to say that we are living in a dynamic world where things are changing. We change in strategies, we change in technology, we change in ideas, and therefore leadership is what is required in terms of ensuring that we deal with such of those changes. And clearly, we from the TTPS point of view have been exploring what we did, evaluating our strategies and seeing what worked and what has not worked to the benefit and redone of our strategic alignment. And therefore, we are poised in terms of looking at some of those areas. As you rightly mentioned, we look to the whole idea of our dealing with the human resource. Quite rightly, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is one organization and continues to be one organization that serves us. And you've had a situation over time where most of the members of the members from that serve this organization are really Tobago based. That is not to say that they have not been serving the organization to the maximum, well, and I must say. However, we need to find another approach in terms of this small island nations. We have had challenges in terms of the closeness, the close-knittedness of the people, the information. We are challenged at times, even for information that will help us in solving crime and criminal activities on the island. And therefore, we think time has come for us to make those switch around, change around in terms of, we have had it in terms of first division officers from time to time. And therefore, we need to go now look at the lower ranks in terms of ensuring that we pool the human resources. What I must say to you, Ms. Felix, is that even in terms of our leadership strategies, how we model the way, how we inspire the shared vision, how we challenge the process, and how we enable others to act, encouraging from the heart as some of our leadership, the dynamics of leadership. One looks to the question that at times we need to be able to ensure that all the resources are available to the 10 divisions of policing, and therefore giving that opportunity for officers from Tobago at times to make a switch with those from Trinidad, and we have a different approach in terms of our policing, may quite rightly fit as a strategy that can be approached and tried with some level of success.
I had a conversation last week with Mr. William Nurse, and he would have indicated that during his time and even now, he noticed that one of the big issues faced in Tobago was not only a resource challenge, but it had to do a lot with training, especially seeing that a lot of special reserve officers were at a number of the precincts, and they were not on the same level of training as the regular police officers. Is that still an issue that is faced by officers in Tobago? And what is being done as a part of this crime fighting strategy to increase the quality of training given to officers?
What I must say is, in terms of the training, that the police academy continues to be our human resource, where training emanates from. And of course, we do have officers being trained locally and regionally and internationally. I myself just returned from El Salvador, participating in a leadership training for law enforcement officers around the globe. And therefore, training is part of our mandate. We do have training from time to time, even within ourselves here in the division. We offer training. We provided, I recall, one of the most recent trainings when our officers were promoted. We did not wait on Trinidad. We took the opportunity and used the resources that are available to us and the skill set, and we were able to train our 54 corporals from Tobago on the island to get them ready. So training is afforded. Quite rightly, the whole things are unfolding within the service rapidly. It has had some setbacks in terms of everybody can't go at the same point in time. So it's on a rotational basis that we'll have different times. And based on our limited numbers at times, divisional commander at time from, because at the end of the day, you have limited staff and manpower to work with when you send off all these officers to training. However, I must admit that training has been taking place. I cannot speak to the issues of your former interview. However, we are at this point in time embracing training at all levels. Perhaps you are muted. I'm not hearing you.
Hear me now.
Yes.
Right? Well, there is the consensus among many that when you have officers coming from Trinidad and officers going to Tobago, the dynamic is one where some of the best officers in Tobago are sent down to Trinidad, while some of the officers in Trinidad that may not be performing at their best are sent to Tobago because oftentimes they want to keep some of their best workers there. How do you feel about that?
Ms. Felix, one of the things that we don't want to do in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is to politicize the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We continue to be one organization, and I make that statement all the time. We are not the Tobago House of Assembly, where you have divisions in terms of electoral districts and what have you. And I think Tobago needs to understand that the TTPS is one TTPS that serves this Twin Island Republic. This thing about when I passed out of the barracks and Mr. William Nurse, who you spoke with, passed out of the barracks, we weren't sent to Tobago, We worked at different places in Trinidad, and the same can still exist. That wherever you are posted, you are called to serve, to protect and serve this country, and you have to go there. It is about utilizing your resources. It is about ensuring that the best resources is placed where it is required. Quite recently, in my training in El Salvador, we were exposed to a new style of of dealing with human behaviors, and how you are able to treat with your human resources, which utilize the DISC behavior style, where we look at, we have gone past the idea of operating with passion. And this is a universal language of observing the human behavior in terms of where you will place people that is best poised to serve this island, this country. So to put it like we are going to give the best. Let me put it in the best of way. Mr. Nurse was a very good officer in terms of intelligence, in terms of working with crime fighting and stuff like that. But Mr. Nurse went to Trinidad. He got an acting and he has to go to pick it up somewhere else. Will he not pick it up? The point I am saying to you, that at the end of the day, we can't want to have this argument that Trinidad taking this and Tobago taking this. Is foolishness. The idea is where you are called to serve this country, you have to serve. So you can have vice versa in terms of very good officers from Trinidad come to Tobago, and we have a mixture. We are one TTPS. We are not separated that says that you are from Tobago, so you should sit down here in Tobago and serve Tobago all the time. That is one of the powers of the Commissioner of Police, where she can or he can place people with the resources available at their disposal to serve this country. And we must respect that.
Units that we're seeing coming on stream here in Tobago.
I didn't hear your question.
What are some of the new units that are coming on stream here in Tobago?
Okay, so during my leadership, I advocated and quite rightly gotten some of the units, such as the IATF, Interagency Task Force, and the Guard and Emergency Branch, to bring them here to Tobago. They are here presently now, operating, and as we build out some accommodation for permanency, working there with in terms of supporting that issue. We have also brought on board the fraud squad now, so that persons don't have to think about droning to Trinidad or being afraid to make the reports at station. So we have the fraud squad operating at the Chevron Road Police Station. And we have all the other units, the police complaints unit for persons who can make complaints from time to time. All these units are now available right here in Tobago. And from time to time, we have been bringing on board, of course, the riverine unit, working closely with our marine life operation here and all those environmental police in order to treat with issues that are environmentally sensitive on this island.
Yes, so when we come back from the break, we're going to chat a bit about the idea of that Tobago Police Service. So we'll have a quick break and we'll be back right after this. See you soon. Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago. Now, if you are just joining us, then we have been chatting with Assistant Superintendent Mr. Collis Hazel. Good morning and welcome back. Now, right before the break, we indicated that we'll be chatting a bit about that Tobago Police Service and the proposal for such. Give us your perspective on how that can work along with the TTPS to assist with that safety and security control here on the island of Tobago.
Well, like anything else, I would want to say that I welcome that initiative in terms of ensuring that we can have another arm of national security apparatus working with other areas, because crime is multiple. The achievement of solving crime multi-prong has worked over time, and therefore any other successful element as a project, a program, an initiative in order to bring that those issues under resolve will certainly be welcomed by me and, of course, the members of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We have gone on record into speaking about the whole question that this approach in terms of establishing, whether we call it Tobago or whatnot on there, that sometimes we don't like to be called a municipality or whatnot on there. That name doesn't really matter in terms of my course. Is the level of responsibility and how we carved it out in order to ensure that we bring success. The idea is the Commissioner of Police is mandated to deal with all supplemental arms of policing on the in Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore this Tobago Police, the municipal police, whatever you want to call it, it will fall under the purview of the Commissioner of Police, while we're having that overarching responsibility for national security. This initiative can very well see itself in providing some of the functions that are now being policed by the national police to be having this institution paying a greater attention to these level of what we will call minor crime and minor offenses that can take place from time to time. Of course, one has to realize that you start small and then you grow large, and you start with minor offenses and then you grow into minor crime, and therefore you escalate into what is called serious crime. So therefore, stamping out these crimes from very early and having officers treat with that and educate, sensitize, and act as a catalyst for change in ensuring that things doesn't get worsen and develop into criminal element. It is my humble view that this unit should be focused at the heart, focusing on 1, community policing, 2, dealing with offenses in terms of you have those what we call the bordering, dealing with the issue of paying closer attention to the security, the island security, things like the Tobago House of Assemblies, properties and so forth, and to deal with litter wardens, those issues, to deal with the market and vending, and of course to deal with parking, so that you have traffic co-ops and all of that embedded in that whole system, to deal with the marine life. This is another area. We have had a very ugly situation that is taking place in the Pigeon in the Pigeon Point and Nyland Pool area with respect to our boat and seafarer operators there, and all of these are things that we can have the unit pay closer attention to. Of course, coastal patrols of this pay attention to our porous borders. So some of these are areas in which, of course, the unit can pay greater attention to, while the TTPS is given the opportunity to do more in-depth investigation and analysis to serious crime and other criminal activities that will take place in an island state.
A lot of sense. In regards to the public having that trust and confidence in the police, what type of strategies are you implementing to really help the public to restore any confidence that they may have lost?
Okay, so we have started only last 2 weeks. We have rolled out a program where the executive of the TTPS is reaching out to the various, all the units at all levels of our sworn and unsworn officers in order to restore trust and confidence among our staff. It was only last week the Deputy Commissioner joined us on the island here, and I, of course, had that session as well in my other division, in Eastern Division, where we were able to meet with the officers one-on-one, share our whole interaction with them, listen to their concerns, and again, educate, treat, and guide them into where we would like to see the TTPS going, starting with a bottom-up approach, reaching them at the point they are at, So no longer are we prepared to sit in our luxurious offices and stay there, but we are reaching out. We are going out to our charges and talking with them and educating and guiding on them so that that will bring a catalyst for change. We have seen that that has been from the feedback that we are getting. Persons felt comfortable, persons felt motivated in order to go out there and to address some of the concerns that perhaps were not being addressed. So that is another area. We have gone ahead as well in terms of looking at ensuring that quite recently the commissioner launched our media communication in getting feedback from our public, and we've looked at our suggestion boxes, we have looked at our scan barcodes and our IT mechanisms that are out there in order for us to receive feedback. We have been using our approach all the time. We're on top of that, keeping town meetings two town meetings every month throughout the island where persons are able to come and engage us. My offices is also open and available. One of the strategies that I am using as well is to have an opportunity where I will have a day designated to meet the members of the public, where I can hear their concerns and you know, we don't have to set any appointment. You know that you can just come in and meet the ACP and let's talk, because sometimes some of the service are not being had by some of our staff members, and therefore we are here to serve the public. And this is what exactly we want to do. So we want to be able to get feedback. Outside of that, we do have our covert operations where you can still call 800 tips, you can still call 555, you can still call Crime Stoppers. And all these are agencies and programs that we have placed that you can utilize in order to provide, to build that trust and confidence. Not forgetting, you are not debarred from reaching any of the officers at any level, whether first or second division officers in charge of station, branches, units, and section. I am one of the first person who made myself available, provided my telephone contact to the public of Tobago as an assuming office, that you can reach me at any time to treat with any situation, because we do not have a closed door policy. So it is all about building trust. But Ms. Felix, as we rightly said, this issue of trust and mistrust has been postulated by many theorists in terms of motivation, in terms of building the self-esteem and the self-efficacy of persons. And therefore, I am asking and laying an olive branch out there to the members of the public this morning that quite rightly, you may have had an encounter with the police that may have not been to some extent one of warm and welcoming reproach. I am asking you, don't take that one issue and live it all your life, that you would not want to encounter another police. I am saying to you, the Bible has taught all of us that we can forgive 70 times 7 and expect forgiveness. Why not try it with the TTPS this morning? Why not utilize the opportunity whereby we can say, well, okay, one person would have done me something wrong. Why am I taking on that baggage and that burden and carrying it throughout my lifestyle? You can be the one who outside there is witnessing a crime or some level of criminality, and you are not only doing yourself harm, but you are doing an island, you are doing a country, you are doing a nation in terms of helping by providing the information that can help in order to solve the situation. Let us understand that you would have done your part in making your pathway, and leave the others to whoever is responsibility. Just as we have been doing. We have been arresting people, we have been placing people before the court, and at the end of the day, we leave it up to the magistrate and judges in order to make the decision. At times, we don't get the decisions that we look forward to, and that of itself bring back a demoralizing situation on some of the police officers. But we don't throw our hands in the air. We continue to challenge ourselves by the demand for high policing, ensuring that basically we are constrained by some of the limited resources. But in this Tobago division, we continue to exert and strive for the best to ensure that safety and security of all persons residing or visiting this island remain safe. My officers of this Tobago division are committed to executing our mandate and to achieve the strategic objective that has been set forward for us. I want to give you the assurances today, Ms. Felix, and all the other persons that are listening to me, that as the executive commander, I give you the assurances that every effort will be made to develop the self-esteem and self-efficacy of our sworn and our unsworn officers to ensure that they work relentlessly and with passion to deliver on the targets that have been set by our commission. And while we acknowledge as a police officer we are not perfect, we still are prepared to ensure that we get the work done to reverse this current trend in crime and criminality that is happening. I can tell you we continue to motivate the officers in building that trust and confidence to ensure that they stand resolute and in our determination to forge ahead with diligence and with purpose, confident that we possess the capacity and capability to succeed in all our endeavors. So I would want the public to work with us, to let loose of some of those past baggages. I entreat and urge some of the very officers past and that who have left the service as well. You can do us good justice if you continue not to condemn unlawfully and unwillingly and support the TTPS with an understanding that time has changed, people have changed, technology has changed, but leadership endures. We are facing a situation now where it is not like long ago. We have an educated population that are outside there seeking to take crime as a part and a way of life. It is now our intent in ensuring that we reduce the profit out of crime on these people. And hence, I have been targeting my officers week by week in all terms of our strategies to ensure that what we have is precision-led policing as well as policing of intelligence-driven policing in order to take the fight against our perpetrators. We want the support of all to be on board with this with us. I am saying to you, as we talk about leadership, perhaps what is needed on this island is what I just witnessed in El Salvador.
Right.
Where
And
you have 60,000 people who were committing crime and is now on an island, and El Salvador is a safe community.
right. And so, Mr. Hazel, what we want to do is take a break right here, and we'll come back and we continue our conversation. See you soon.
Thank you.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning as the passion starter. Let's go, go. It's a brand new
Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. If you're just joining us, then you really have missed an interesting discussion on how the TTPS has been taking control of crime here in Tobago. Now, as we've been having this conversation, I've been chatting with Assistant Superintendent Collis Hazel, and he has given us detailed information on how they have been implementing new strategies to combat crime. And one of those strategies has to do with the training of officers and really helping to develop the human resource of the TTPS. Now, one of the themes that we see continuing to be presented is that evidence-based and intelligence-based policing. Now, when it comes to gathering intelligence, there are many different ways to do that. There are technologies that we are currently using and that exist. But one of the very classical ways of gathering intelligence has to do with, members of the public coming forward and giving that information to the police. Now, when we talk about building confidence, confidentiality, does the training include how to deal with that? Because the reason why a lot of persons shy away from offering information to the police is because of that lack of trust. So what is being done to increase the trust that the public has to present this type of sensitive information that from time to time may put their own lives in danger?
Okay, so I spoke to the issue of us using other technological measures where you can even call Crime Stoppers. Yeah, Crime Stoppers is an international agency that has worked for people where you provide information and of course you are rewarded based on your information, so that you actually don't even speak to a police officer. In this instance, you are able to speak to someone who is able to relay the information onto the police. And of course, with the successful interrogation, at the end of this investigation, if it is a successful initiative, you are being able to go to a particular bank with a chit and to get money for your information from Crime Stoppers. You have had situations where you can call 555 or 800 tips. These are all strategies that prevent you from that fear of crime, of providing information, feeling somebody would know and come after you. So, Ms. Felix, as I see, there's no excuse there. Of course, you have the great issue where the fear of, in these small island republics, island where we operate, where everybody know each other, that seems to be the challenging situation in terms of crime fighting. And rightfully so, that, one has to be very careful because you have had situations where persons may have given lead information and, one of the smart ways, let me tell you what, is that sometimes where bandit use that to his advantage, is that he ain't really get no information from no police, But at the end of the day, he would tell you that I know your source. And he pretends to be a Wobia man. I know your source. And he giving you all this sign information like if he know this, and he calls all people name who are highly involved in crime fighting. All those are strategies that they have been using in order to weaken the apparatus of the police investigation, of getting information and making you preventing you from sharing your information. And when we as a country rise up against that in our brave attitude and said, regardless of whatever, I am taking this stand, that I can't sit down there and see my community that I once know was so quiet has evolved into this situation because you want to be an empire with your riches in terms of doing what you want, shooting and killing people in order to gain your survival. And you just sit back and you keep quiet, and everybody's sitting there cocoon and saying that, okay, well, I can't trust the police anymore. That is not going to bring us any resolve. We are going to enslave ourselves into our very own community and allow the bandits to triumph over us. And therefore, this is a call for us to rise up and take back our island in terms of providing that level of information. This is an opportunity for us to ensure that, okay, our homes have a proper ICT camera system that can help us. Ms. Felix, some of the murders in which we are having, when we go on the crime scenes, we are turning up where there are cameras there, but when you check them, they put them there and nobody ever gone back there to check them, and they're non-functional. So we have to have a bite into the idea of differential, of putting that opportunity on that dent in crime to pay a closer attention to what we do in terms of our life to ensure that we are safe as well. We have had situation where we knowingly that our brother, our sister, our aunt, our uncle, or they are involved heavily. But we don't want to say nothing. We want to keep quiet. And they are getting this society in this fear. But the time has come for us to rise up against those situations. And hence the reason why we are taking this approach in order to target some of these perpetrators night and day in order to try to ensure that we rid the country of some of what is taking place here. One thing that we may not have known in terms of during the last month, we were able to see 6 firearms off the street of Tobago and all these ammunitions. What we have done is a retaliation of what is taking place on the island now with all these shootings, because the bandits realize that, okay, you have gone with our artilleries, we can't do this anymore, so therefore let's pounce back on them. This is what we are coming up against. And therefore, if people are knowing that you are seeing, you have information in terms of where those persons are hiding the gun or where they have any gun, call the police, call me,
Right. And
you call the senior superintendent.
And unfortunately, we don't have enough time to really get into it because there's so much that we can discuss. But as we wrap up this morning's discussion, there is the consensus or the idea that a lot of the gang-related activities in Trinidad is beginning to filter over into Tobago, where we have, individuals on the island identifying themselves with known gangs in Trinidad. Is this a real threat, and how are we working towards combating this, and also, putting preventative measures in place for the young men, not to get caught up in this gang-related violence that's happening?
I would want to say that this is a multi-pronged approach. Any threat to national security or persons outside there in the island is a threat, where people can be safe and secure. And in this case, where at the end of the day, this is a people issue. Ms. Felix, this is a people issue. I can't come into the homes of parents and tell them, here what? You need to be able to tell your boy child or your girl child at the end of the day who to associate with. You know what is good and bad. And you see, you are encouraging a stranger coming in from Trinidad who you don't know his name, you don't know nothing about him, and he's in your dwelling. And you're just allowing that to take place, and you are seeing the life of your boy child or your girl child eroding into a lawless person. And there's nothing in which you are doing or attempting to do in order to save him from a life of crime. What we have been doing outside there, we have encouraged people to join our police youth clubs. We have gone out outside there and encouraged people to get involved in other programs. You would have the Tobago House of Assembly set up some programs. I know that the youth department is setting up another program now in terms of working in collaboration to combat some of these situations. But are they getting involved? Even employing people, giving them early morning work. But at the end of the day, they're getting that salary, but they're still going out outside there. The statistics have shown that some of the people who committing crime is some of the people who get early morning work. And therefore, these are some of the challenges that we are facing. We are engaging the Trinidadians coming up here and educating, and some of them are people who the Tobagonian would have been interfacing with in the prisons. And they are coming out outside there and doing work for them because they know the territory. So you don't want to just blame Trinidadians, and I'm not going down that level at all. You have a situation where Tobago homegrown criminals are outside there on the rampage. And it calls to the idea too, I must mention that I wouldn't go past that, that some of our social sector programs need to beef up on this island. I drive around Tobago and I'm seeing some of the spaces. I was appalled even in my own community here over the weekend to see that a popular group has to rent lights in order to make a cricket competition come alive. And when we reach to that, I'm saying the authorities need to help us in all sectors as well. So if it reaches a stage where we are trying to provide extracurricular activities to engage people from a life of crime, and we have to go out there and rent lights because our pavilions outside, they have no lights. We are talking to an issue where we need help all around. Crime is a social issue as well. And therefore, any opportunity where people can pounce on others, and we don't create not only for persons involved in crime, but some of our young people need to expressively have an opportunity to find other alternatives to crime where they can utilize their leisure time in a constructive area. That is all. That too will help us. So there is a clarion call for us to have. I said it already on this program, and I'm going to say it again. We have over 40 officers that are sports officers in the Division of Sports of the Tobago House of Assembly. I want us to evaluate and see how many of those persons are aligned to a police youth club, a sports club, or something that are working with people. When you look at the hours that they are working, they are 8 to 4. How on earth anybody could be working 8 to 4 as a sports officer when sports is really in this island an extracurricular activity, after school activity? So we can't operate with a public service situation where because you are a contracted worker, everybody working 8 to 4. We now need to change that and give them an opportunity that those persons who are doing those sports and are able to work with the NGOs, CBOs, and faith-based organizations who operate outside of the hours of 8 to 4, you give them an extra branch. You give them another opportunity that this is your work hours that you need to work with. So you can't employ them and they go out outside there and they have no clientele.
All right.
These are some of the issues that will help us on the island and help policing.
All right. Well, thank you so much for giving us that broad view. And before I said Assistant Superintendent, but we know you are Assistant Commissioner of Police, right? You could have corrected me there. I would have taken that.
Some of the we don't take them back with titles and whatnot. Titles are granted, but it is your behavior that will earn you the title.
Right. Well, we thank you so much for representing the TTPS this morning and even giving us a little look into some of the training that came out from that trip to El Salvador recently. And we hope that that will inform the type of policy that is needed to help reduce crime here in Tobago. And I look forward to chatting with you again very soon if you want to come in and give us an update on some of that training that's happening or just some of the activities that's happening within the TTPS. Just let us know and we'll have that conversation. Right?
Quite soon, Miss Felix, I want to say that I am one of the ACP that always make myself available, and I will continue to make myself available as part of our training in El Salvador as well. May I say to you was how to deal with the media. And you know that Collis Hazel ain't afraid no media house. I can handle my stories well. So this is the first person who got a medal from the Homeland Security in terms of on that course, in terms of reaching out. So I'm hearing a narrative about me not being making myself accessible. Let's
we know that
those issues lay rest.
Well, we know that is not true, right? So we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be back with